The World Wide Web opened up a new frontier for publishing in the 1990s, where anyone could create a website from their home computer and could be seen by anyone else in the world with just a few clicks on their keyboard through their Netscape or Internet Explorer browsers. But at the time, it was difficult to build a website, and extensive computer skills, including knowing the HTML computer language, were needed. So while every major corporation eventually set one up, only a few eccentric people, computer nerds, or entrepreneurs had one. About a decade later, in the early 2000s, the advent of social media made having an online presence turnkey, and anyone with practically no computer skills or technical experience could start using the internet to publish blogs with photos and videos and share links to news articles with others who could then share them with their friends and followers who could do the same, and the concept of going viral was born. It was the next phase of the internet revolution, or Web 2.0 as it's called. While Web 1.0 consisted of static web pages, the new era of online activity involved easy two-way communication and an interactive experience with comments, follower counts, and likes. While MySpace led the way, Facebook soon overtook them and quickly grew to dominate social media. At the end of 2006, Facebook opened up to everyone, not just people with a college email address ending in .edu, and then MySpace quickly died. By the 2008 presidential election, Facebook was already part of most people's lives, and now on their phones thanks to the launch of the Apple App Store. When the iPhone was first released in June 2007, it had only a few apps like email, maps, and music. But the following year, the Apple App Store opened to third-party developers and enabled access to services that had previously been contained to desktop computers, but were now available anywhere in the palm of your hand. Social media soon morphed from a fun novelty to a way of life. During this new social media revolution, if you were a young adult and didn't have a Facebook page, or later were a high schooler and didn't have a Snapchat or Instagram account, then you were seen as an outcast. Social media became just as common as cell phones. Stay tuned, because we're going to go deep into the massive cultural shifts caused by this technology and how it started a new power struggle among those who desperately want to control the flow of information. But first, order my new book, The War on Conservatives, in paperback from Amazon.com, or download the ebook from any of the major ebook stores to get the full story of what's going on, because these short YouTube videos can't even begin to scratch below the surface. Link in the description below. Even though Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube had become extremely popular by the 2008 presidential election, their real power still wasn't realized until a few years later. Barack Obama was the first president to have a Facebook and a Twitter account, and throughout the 2008 to 2012 election cycles, people used social media to argue and debate ideas and share news articles, and the platforms slowly became more and more intertwined with politics and our daily lives. But even throughout the Obama administration, social media was still mostly considered to be a neat way to communicate with other people. And while it was certainly changing our culture, it hadn't become the center point of it yet. By the 2016 presidential election cycle, which began in 2015, social media had become an integral part of our culture. Every celebrity, every TV show, every brand name business had a Facebook and Twitter account. It's how major companies fielded complaints from their customers instead of the old-fashioned way of having people call them on the phone. A new kind of celebrity was created in the form of YouTubers or social media stars who use the technology to go viral and gain massive audiences, often dwarfing traditional talk radio shows and television networks. Stories that weren't chosen by editors of major newspapers and television networks to dominate their coverage, or even get mentioned at all, could now become widely publicized by people organically sharing them, and the corporate news giants lost their ability to control the topics of conversation that the general public was having. The New York Times complained that YouTube, Reddit, and Facebook have allowed fringe thinkers to bypass traditional gatekeepers and reach millions of people directly. CNN complained that social media companies have given everybody the same ability to broadcast their views, unfiltered, to millions and millions of people. Oh no! After Trump beat Hillary Clinton in 2016, the entire liberal media industrial complex panicked and claimed that fake news being spread through Facebook by Russians tricked people into not liking her, and thus not voting for her. The establishment media aimed to take their power back, and that's when the mass censorship and algorithm manipulation started. Before the 2016 election, the only posts or content that was taken down were almost exclusively things that clearly violated what were once reasonable terms of service. Forbidding death threats, porn, or people just uploading full episodes of TV shows to YouTube, infringing on studios' copyrighted works. The mainstream media lost control of the flow of information, and so they scrambled to gain back their monopoly, partnering with the big tech platforms to not only get their content artificially boosted, but also systematically suppress independent voices. Immediately in the aftermath, we saw an increasingly number of conservatives having posts removed from social media and getting locked out of their accounts or permanently banned for posting criticism of illegal immigration, Muslim refugees, gender bending, and other LGBTQ activities that had previously been allowed to be hotly debated and firmly denounced. Posting basic facts about science and gender or undisputed crime statistics about black males became a problem. During President Trump's first impeachment hearings, nobody was allowed to mention the name of the whistleblower whose bogus allegations kicked the whole thing off after Trump asked Ukraine's President Zelensky about the Biden crime family's dealings in the country, which was spun into a story about seeking a foreign country's help to interfere in our election. When Senator Rand Paul mentioned the name of the person widely believed to have helped get the impeachment hearing in motion on the floor of the Senate, YouTube removed that video, claiming it was harassment and an invasion of privacy just for saying someone's name and accurately describing what they had done to try to bring down a seated president. In 2017, YouTube completely changed their search results to surface videos from mainstream media channels for most topics people look up. Internally, they tag brand name channels as authoritative, so the algorithm artificially boosts them to the top of the search results, even if other videos from independent, ordinary YouTubers are more relevant and should organically be the top results because of their views, watch time, and the amount of engagement they have. YouTube even created a special curated list of search terms after liberals in the media complained about the top search results for things like abortion and the Federal Reserve. They added actress Brie Larson's name to the list after journalists complained that the top search results for her name, accompanied by the title of her latest film at the time, Captain Marvel, were YouTubers critical of her and the movie. Then they later hid the dislike ratings near the end of 2021 because so many people were thumbing down videos on mainstream channels that kept getting artificially boosted into people's feeds and inserted into the trending list. And every video from the official White House YouTube channel, now that the Biden administration was in control, had an over 90% thumbs down rating. YouTube claimed it was to prevent smaller YouTubers from getting bullied by large numbers of people thumbing down their videos. But it was just another attempt to hide negative feedback about the liberal propaganda they kept pushing. And then another wave of censorship hit during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 when people opposing the mandatory lockdowns were suspended and banned from the brand name social media platforms, and people questioning the safety of the vaccine were censored as well. Even just saying that the virus leaked from the Wuhan lab wasn't allowed. Remember that? We can't just move on and forget what they've done. Senator Rand Paul was censored by YouTube, again, for a speech he made denouncing the mask mandates on the floor of the Senate. Dan Bongino's channel was banned after his third strike for COVID misinformation because of a rant that he did about masks, saying something about the mandates that wasn't allowed to be questioned. Dr. Drew, the famous Hollywood, liberal TV doctor, even got a strike on YouTube for supposed medical misinformation after he discussed some of the possible side effects of a certain vaccine that you're not supposed to question the safety of on his podcast. He's generally pro-vaccine and got the COVID vaccine himself, but even though he's a medical doctor, YouTube didn't allow him to talk about certain things that may happen to children's hearts if they are injected with it. The censorship was so egregious that after a medical device being used on COVID patients called the Heal Light, which consisted of a breathing tube wrapped in ultraviolet LEDs designed to kill the virus once inserted into the lungs of patients, was mentioned by President Trump, the company had their YouTube channel and Twitter account censored for spreading dangerous medical misinformation. Remember that? Donald Trump mentioned that scientists were using ultraviolet light inside the body to kill the virus, something that the media mocked him for because anything he said they used against him. His explanation of the technology was just an off-the-cuff remark about some of the things that were being developed to help treat patients. So the media made it seem as if he was crazy and wanted to insert light bulbs under people's skin. Then, when people started pointing out he was referring to an actual device being tested in hospitals, the big tech platforms did what they could to hide that fact in order to prevent the media's mockery of him from backfiring. Doubting the integrity of electronic voting machines and signature verification on mail-in ballots was banned after the 2020 election, as you know, because when you're living in a free country, you're not allowed to question what the government or the mainstream media says, because only Democrats are allowed to question election results these days. And next year, if you say that Trump was unfairly charged for any of the 91 felony counts they indicted him for, the big tech platforms may actually say that you're undermining democracy and censor those posts as well, and ban repeat offenders. Mentioning the names of the members of the jury who are going to decide Trump's fate will be forbidden unless or until a few of them come forward and do the talk show circuit and promote their new books, which they will undoubtedly get massive payouts for. 2024 is going to be a roller coaster of a year. Probably a train wreck, actually, is a better metaphor, because no matter what happens, all roads lead to chaos. So get ready. Like President Trump says, they're coming for him because they really want to come after us. And if you haven't read it yet, you got to order my new book, The War on Conservatives, to get all the details of all their plans and how you can fight back. And not all hope is lost, but we are in for a very difficult fight ahead. So order it in paperback from Amazon.com or download the ebook from any of the major ebook stores. And of course, there's a link to the Amazon listing in the description below. So click it and head on over there and check it out.